Hi, I'm Julia M. Spencer. I'm a real estate advisor, investor, and your number one source for real estate advice online. With this little short video, I want to talk a little bit about depreciation. I had some questions from some of my subscribers to my YouTube channel, to my Facebook regarding depreciation. Some new investors that wanted to get into real estate investing and didn't quite understand the concept of depreciation and how it would affect their portfolio or their tax returns or even their cash flow. So I wanted to make this brief video to explain those two concepts. How does depreciation impact your tax return, and how does depreciation impact your cash flow? Let's talk about it. Depreciation is a deduction but not a cash outflow expense. That is the big difference of depreciation versus any of the other expenses with real estate investing. Depreciation actually reduces taxable income, which is where it has the most benefit for you. And I wanted to demonstrate that with a really simple example. So let's talk about that. Let's say we have a $100,000 property, and the income that property generates is $10K per year, $10,000 per year. Let's assume that $100,000 property generates $1,000 every month in rent, and it's vacant for 2 months out of the year. And basically, your expenses for that particular property are $4,000 per year. That leaves you with a profit of $6,000 per year. Now, if there was no depreciation expense that you could take for this property, basically that 6K profit would be taxed at whatever your going tax rate is. For this particular example, I assumed it's 30%, and that would be $1,800. So take $1,800 off the $6,000, you're left with $4,200 or 4.2K profit at the end of the year. Now let's see what it looks like with depreciation. Same property, $100,000, same income, same expenses, same profit. Now we have this depreciation expense right here. 3.6K, $3,600 in depreciation. Let me tell you a little bit how I calculate that. In the United States IRS code, real estate property is depreciated over 27 and a half years. So you would take the $100,000 divided by 27.5 years, and this right here is a depreciation expense you can take every year on that one property. $3,636. Take that off your profit, your depreciation expense. Now, all of a sudden, on paper, your profit is $2,400 or 2.4K. Now, let's tax that at the 30%. If we tax $2,400 of profit at 30%, you're left with having to pay 0.72K in taxes on that property. That translates to $720 versus $1,800 right here. What does that mean? Well, guess what? We're not taking that $700 off this profit that's right here on this paper. We're taking it off the actual profit, this actual profit of $6,000, which means in the end, your profit left with depreciation expense is much higher than it would be if there was no depreciation expense. In fact, it's about $1,000 more profit. Now that actually applies if you have positive cash flow on your property. So if you had, for example, 20 properties and they were all kind of like the same way, the same income, same expenses, same value of the property when you bought it, and so on and so forth, each one of them per year would generate an extra $1,000 because of this depreciation expense. So at the end of 1 year, if you had 20 properties, this right here would translate into 20K of additional cash flow that you could realize because of depreciation. Now, let's assume that this is actually not the right amount of income and expenses. And let's say some of your properties have been vacant for a little bit longer than 2 months out of the year, or maybe your expenses are a little bit higher that year, or whatever reason. And basically, what you would have at the end of the year, instead of the 6K profit, you would actually have zero profit. And a lot of real estate investors do this. You actually think that might sound really bad, but a lot of real estate investors actually try to break even on their properties, meaning the money that they put in is actually the same amount that goes out in terms of expenses, so they kind of break even and don't show any positive cash flow. And you may wonder, why would a real estate investor actually get into that? Why would a real estate investor buy properties that don't generate cash flow? Let me tell you why. If this profit right here was zero, you still have the depreciation expense, which means that would make the profit on this kind of property, instead of something that would be taxed, it would actually be a negative 3.6K, $3,600, negative $3,600 just on that one property per year in depreciation expense. Now, this is the kicker. Let's say you had 20 of those negative income properties. Now, you think, okay, I lost $3,600. That's money out of my pocket. Why would I want that? But depreciation is a non-cash flow expense. It's not cash that you're actually giving away. It's just an expense on paper. So let's say you had 20 properties and each one generated $3,600 a year in negative expenses. Multiply that $3,636 times 20, you suddenly have $72,720 of negative income on those properties, which you can use if you have another business, or if you, for example, have a job where you have to pay taxes. You can take $72,720 off of whatever that you have already as taxable income from your job, from your other business, or whatever, and basically make that other income that you have be zero. For example, I have a very good friend that typically pays anywhere between $20,000 and $70,000 a year in taxes. That's money he has to bring to the IRS at the end of each tax return because he generates so much income with his business. If he had 20 properties, and this would be the calculation on each one of them, he basically would have on a tax return where he owed $72,000, he would use this amount right here and offset those $72,000 in expenses in this tax bill, this huge tax bill, and basically zero it out because he has all this depreciation expense. And the best thing is, no money goes out of his pocket. It's just properties that he's holding. They're breaking even. They're not costing him anything extra. This is where real estate investing is huge. It's huge. It makes you money in a very subtle way, not by maybe sometimes not putting money right into your hand, but actually by reducing your taxable income. Reducing your taxable income, this is the key, because it's not always about how much money you make, but actually it is about how much of that money you get to keep. Now, for more tips like this, go to my website, juliamspencer.com. Go there today. Download your free guide to real estate investing there. You can sign up. Make sure you go to my YouTube channel and check out my other videos, and also check out my Facebook channel and like my page. And I hope to see you investing soon. I am Julia M. Spencer, your #1 source for real estate advice online.
For your free guide to real estate investing, visit juliamspencer.com.